To submit your questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom, which is probably everybody knows that by now after months of doing this type of thing. And then some of the participants on the call will, on the webinar, will review those questions, maybe consolidate some of them, and try to answer all of them either collectively or individually, and that'll be a little bit later in the presentations. Please note this is not Chatham House rules, meaning this is not like a quarantined discussion. It's not totally private, but of course, if anybody uses the information for any reason, please use it respectively and correctly. So I think what I'll do is we'll first go through the panel a little bit. First, I'm going to be introducing Candy Nip, who's the director of the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office. Then I'll be introducing Robert Marsh, who will be our moderator today. He's the president of Global Mesh LLC. About maybe 45 minutes into the event, Robert will then be handling the Q&A. Then we'll move to Anna Fan, who's the director of Hong Kong Trade Development Council, and we'll tell you about that. And then we'll have a closure by my colleague down in Atlanta, Henry Yu, who's the chairman of Hong Kong Association of Atlanta. So first, I'm pleased and honored to introduce Candy. Candy's the director of Hong Kong Economic Trade Office in New York City, and that promotes trade and investments between Hong Kong and I think the number is the 31 Eastern United States. She's had previous positions in Europe as well as in Hong Kong, especially in transportation and finance. So Candy, how about if I turn it over to you for your remarks?
Thank you, Don, for the very kind introduction. Good morning, good evening to friends on both sides of the Pacific and across multiple time zones. It is my great pleasure today to welcome you all to this webinar on global aviation development, with a particular focus on air cargo industry and the logistics sectors. I would also like to thank our partners, the Hong Kong associations in New York and in Atlanta, the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, and Invest Hong Kong for their support in putting together this timely event. I said this is a timely event. Well, we all know that the air cargo and logistics industry have always been big contributors to global economic development. According to IATA, the International Air Transport Association, air cargo transports over $6 trillion worth of goods annually, accounting for about 35% of the world trade by value. But at the same time, the world is experiencing, we could easily call, the biggest challenge in recent decades. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted almost every sector of the economy and in every part of the world. Public health crisis aside, we're suffering from reduced trading and production activities and feeble consumer demand. That said, all e-commerce platforms around the world have been seeing busier than ever activities. So what does all these mean to us? What is happening to our air cargo industry and the logistics sector? How are they surviving the pandemic? Perhaps there's a silver lining to this crisis also. And most importantly, how is the industry preparing themselves for future opportunities once recovery is on its way? We can't find better partners to speak at today's forum. The Hong Kong International Airport and the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport are the world's busiest cargo and passenger airports respectively. Both airports have topped the respective ranking charts by the Airport Council International in the past 10 consecutive years. In fact, the leading position of the Atlanta Airport in terms of total passenger traces back to much longer than 10 years. The outlook on the future of the cargo industry will be most relevant. We're also very happy to have the Logistics and Supply Chain Multi-Tech R&D Center joining us today. They will share with us their insights on how technologies could play an even bigger role in enhancing the efficiency of the logistics and supply chain. So without further ado, I will now pass the floor to Robert, our moderator and our panelist. Please enjoy today's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Candy, and welcome to everyone, whichever time zone you're in. I'm in Atlanta, where a hurricane is coming our way here today and tomorrow. So anyway, we will make do with that. As Don and Candy have said, we are in for a treat. Our panelists are industry leaders representing the segments of air freight, and they'll discuss the disruptions, challenges, and opportunities around e-commerce and these emerging technologies. So I will introduce the panelists, and the panelists will have a short presentation, and time permitting, we will also have some Q&A throughout their presentation and at the end. So as Don said, please use the Q&A button. I will be monitoring that. So our four panelists today, first, Sissy Chan, who is the Executive Director Commercial of the Airport Authority of Hong Kong. So Sissy is there. There she is. I'm sorry. There you are on the screen.
Good morning.
Good evening to you. We also have Simon Wong, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the Logistics and Supply Chain Multi-Tech R&D Center. Simon.
Good morning.
Welcome, Simon. Thank you. We have Elliot Page, who is the Director of the Air Service Development at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport.
Good morning and good evening to everyone.
Hello, Elliot. Thank you. And Andy Wong, who is the Head of Innovation and Technology in Invest HK. Andy.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Okay, so we'll get right into it. First up will be Sissy Chan. And Sissy, the floor is yours.
File right away. Could you see it? Okay, so good morning and good evening. So I'm very happy to have the chance to share with you air cargo development at the Hong Kong International Airport. So Hong Kong International Airport has been the world's busiest cargo airport since 2010 for 10 consecutive years. And in 2019, we handled 4.8 million tons of air cargo. While air cargo only accounts for about 2% of our cargo tonnage overall, however, it actually accounts for 42% of Hong Kong's external trade value. So with that, in fact, Hong Kong is a leading global hub, and our edges lie with connectivity as well as efficiency. So we are in the center of Asia, and within 5 hours flying time, one could reach half of the world's population. And in terms of our network, we cover 220 destinations, including 50 in mainland China. And for our frequency, in 2019, we are talking about 1,100 daily flights with about 160 being freighters. And in fact, this number has gone up. The freighters have gone to about 200 per day as quite some of the passenger flights were canceled because of COVID. Now, we are very efficient too. The Hong Kong Customs actually work around the clock, providing service for customs clearance. And we have an unparalleled 3 hours cutoff time. So this means that when the cargo arrives in the airport 3 hours ahead of flight departure, they will definitely be able to catch the flight for export. So this year, businesses around the world actually turned upside down because of COVID, and so are many of our lives. For air cargo, we are relatively stable. For example, in September, we have a slight drop of about 4% in terms of tonnage, but we do see a lot of growth opportunities ahead of us. So all along, we have in place a set of cargo strategies. And the pandemic has actually proved these cargo strategies are very much on track. So we have two growth pillars. One is to focus on the high growth segments. In this particular case, we are talking about e-commerce as well as temperature controlled air freight. And the other growth pillar is connectivity. And we are looking at how we could further strengthen our role as Greater Bay Area's international cargo gateway. So let me talk about e-commerce first. I guess every one of us here have done quite some online shopping. And this actually has led to the growth of courier service as well as air cargo, because many of us will not bother to wait for many weeks before we got the merchandise. We would prefer the merchandise to be transported by air so that we got it in a few days. Now, online shopping has become even more popular under the pandemic. If we look at our express air cargo tonnage this year, in fact, it has grown by over 20% because of e-commerce as well as online shopping. So in order to fully capture this e-commerce opportunity, there is a few developments. First of all, there's a premium logistics center being developed by a joint venture led by Alibaba's logistics arm, China Network. Now, for this one, it's actually going to be their smart hub for Asia for their fulfillment of e-commerce business. The very reason why they chose this airport location is to facilitate them to fulfill their target of global deliveries within 72 hours. When this premium logistics center is completed, it will become the third largest warehouse in Hong Kong with a lot of automation, robotics, and in area is actually quite big, 380,000 square meters. And the most important thing is it would bring along 1.7 million tons of incremental air cargo, and it's going to be ready in 2023. The other initiative underway is DHL Central Asia Hub expansion. DHL has a dedicated facility in our airport, and it is one of the 3 global hubs for DHL. Because it's so busy and so full, it's now under expansion. And when it's done in year 2022, it will increase the handling capacity by 50% to over 1 million tons. So another key growth area for us is temperature-controlled air freight, with one of the key sectors being pharmaceuticals. If we look at pharmaceuticals in Hong Kong, the air cargo in this particular segment has grown by 12% compound annual growth rate between the year 2014 to 2019. And Hong Kong International Airport is one of the few partner airports of IATA, International Air Transport Association, CFAMA accredited. And in fact, not only are we accredited, we also have very good hardware to help us to deliver a very good competency in terms of pharmaceutical airside transportation. Now, if you look at the pictures on your right-hand side, we got cold rooms across our 3 cargo terminals. And at the bottom, in the middle, you see a fleet of cool dollies. So what are they? They are basically mobile fridges. And the temperature there could be set between -20 degrees Celsius all the way to 20 degrees Celsius. And the temperature there could be maintained as well as monitored for the merchandise being stored and transported on the apron. And last year, we also launched the first airport-to-airport pharma corridor with Brussels, one of the key air cargo hubs in Europe. So all these actually showed how well prepared as well as competent we are in terms of delivering all these air temperature controlled cargo from one end to another. And I would say this is particularly relevant when we would expect quite some vessel shipments, air freight in the very near future. So another accreditation that we got in the same segment is CFresh. So Hong Kong International Airport is the first airport community to attain IATA CFresh And that was last year. And this year, 2 of our cargo terminals, PATO and CPSL, also received the certification for live animals. In fact, we transported quite some live animals, not only horses, but also alpacas and many others. So the other key growth pillar is connectivity. And our job is to build Hong Kong International Airport as the international aviation hub for Greater Bay Area. So the National Greater Bay Area Development Plan reaffirms our airport's status as an international aviation hub for Greater Bay Area. We are very well connected to Greater Bay with, for example, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, which cuts off the traveling time between Hong Kong and Zhuhai from 4 hours to 45 minutes. And the new tunnel, which is coming up very shortly, will also cut the distance from the airport island to the Shenzhen border significantly. So all these actually are going to give rise to very good business opportunities. For example, manufacturers in the Greater Bay Area could easily export their products via Hong Kong International Airport to over 170 international destinations using the infrastructures that we just talked about. And by the same token, a lot of imports could also enter into the Greater Bay areas using Hong Kong International Airport as a gateway to the world and also to Greater Bay Area. So with all these, I would say we are very confident that there are a lot of opportunities lying ahead of us. So let's work together to unleash them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sissy. And I think what we'll do, just try to stay on schedule here. We'll just keep moving and hold some Q&A until the end. I want to make sure all the presenters get their time to discuss their topic. So next, we have Simon Wong, who will talk about the Logistics and Supply Chain Multi-Tech R&D Center. Simon, please.
Can you see the screen?
No. Yes, now we can.
You can see the screen. Okay. Good morning, everybody. And I just want to let me get to page 1. This is Simon Wong. My center is called Logistics and Supply Chain R&D Center. We are under the Innovation and Technology Commission of Hong Kong government. Basically, what we do is really working on the technologies in the supply chain and logistics. Following Sissy, I'm not going to go into the details, but as you all know, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, passengers' flight is drastically reduced. The good news, if we can call it, is that the air freight is still doing well on goods. Actually, we have increased in both imports and export up till September, and the air freight charge goes off the roof because everybody wants to ship out by air. A large portion in the initial period is the PPE that has been shipped to North America as well as to Europe. Okay. Bad news, of course, Cathay Pacific just made a massive layoff. I'm sure you know of Cathay, and they have eliminated the Cathay Dragonair branch. Following what Sissy said, I completely agree. The impact and ramifications of the COVID is that we see the rise of the e-commerce. Consumers are basically forced to buy online, and it is changing their behavior. And so are the retailers because they need to follow the consumers. E-commerce is booming. The big names, Alibaba, JD in China, Amazon is popular here, and many other platforms. All these are going on. And although the implications because of the e-commerce is the e-payment gateways. a lot more payments are being done by the Alipay, WeChat Pay, and there are many other global payment gateways, which is being used in Hong Kong. Increasing demand in e-logistics, online transactions, cross-boundary to fulfillment inside Hong Kong, and demand for air charters and couriers are actually increasing. So what we see is that I don't know how permanent the change it will be, but definitely in the coming years, we will see the impact of this COVID-19 that will change the need of air freight and change the need of air services in the years to come. The business environment, like I said, other than the need of more air freighted goods, is social distancing, which is changing the operations in airline, airports, hospitality, catering, everything that is happening in what we call in Hong Kong, the airport island. It's a hard hit because many of those businesses are very, very lethargic now because there's no customers. However, going onward, social distancing is a requirement on all their services. So we need to be mindful of the need and see what we can do with it. Consumer preference is changing also. I'm not going into details, but the global supply chain adjustment is one thing we are very closely watching. The US-China trade dispute is still going on more than 2 years now. That caused supply-based diversifications in this part of the world. And we see a lot of need because of the diversified supply chain, a lot more need in air freight because people need to ship samples, materials, sub-assemblies around, and because of the just-in-time requirement, and because of the e-commerce, many of those are air freight. So that's an increasing demand there. And in China, our central government has introduced the double circulation policy, which basically is, in my understanding, is to balance the internal domestic economy together with the external, which is trade with the outside world, to balance both portion of it to guarantee continuous economic growth of the country. This is something new. We are watching to see what the ramification is, what kind of change we need. But all in all this environment calls for change. And for us as R&D guys, the change has to be met with new technologies for safer, smoother, faster, and more, of course, air freights. The next page, I will show you some of the work we do in the technical field. So you are seeing on the left is actually an automatic forklifter, which will follow the worker and do the heavy lifting. In the middle is a deliver board, which can go through very crowded space. And on the far right, of course, is the platform that we work on to enable massive robotization in airport. These are the kind of vision we have. We hope that we will modernize further the services inside the airport and the related service. Another front we work on is on the, of course, on the online field. CC just mentioned there's a huge bridge that we have built called the Hong Kong, Zhuhai, and Macau Bridge, which link up the three places very closely together. And the first stop, once it gets into Hong Kong, is actually near our international airport. So what we did here is that we work with Zhuhai ePort, which is, again, a government online service platform which serve for the customs, taxation, trade, so on and so forth. We are trying to link up with them and do first time ever in Hong Kong to do some data exchange, as well as to facilitate better cargo declarations and smoother cargo movement through the online application. So soft side and the hard side, we're working very hard to try to promote a better trading and better logistic environment for better service. Another one, Sissy mentioned about the cold chain. This is one project that we're working on, is big data analytics in cold chain. In this particular case, is the daily products, which is a big ticket item in our part of the world. We are monitoring with the help of the major brand on the content of the daily products and look for contaminants or anomalies in their supply chain. All this are trying to beef up Hong Kong as the cold chain hub of the region. Not only that we provide freight service, we also provide all the needed software and technical services. And last but not least is the 5G applications. 5G is becoming popular both in mainland of China as well as in Hong Kong. Hong Kong Airport is the first place other than the service provider to have the 5G service. And with its massive data carriage, as well as a very fast transmission gigabytes in a second, we can do self-driving cars in the airport. We can automate the warehouse, and many of the services will be becoming cheaper and more efficient by using a remote control via the 5G. This is basically a broad stroke descriptions on what we are doing, in particular in response to the COVID-19 impact. We can talk some more in the coming panel. This is what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. So as I said, we'll just keep moving along and we'll save the questions to the end so we can get everyone through what they want to talk about. So next, we have Elliot Page, who is from Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, where I am. All yours, Elliot.
Let me unmute myself. Thank you very much. Let me see if I can get my slides up. All right, thank you everyone, and good morning, good evening to everyone wherever you are. I'm Elliot Page, the Director for Air Service Development at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, the world's busiest and most efficient airport. In 2019, as was said in the introduction, we carried over 110 million passengers and were set to look closer to 120 million passengers in 2020. At least as of January, we were predicting that. Unfortunately, we were hit like everyone else, and we saw a precipitous fall of our air service between February and especially after March. So we went from an average of, say, in February, 7.7 million passengers to about 4 million passengers in March, all the way down to less than 500,000 passengers in an entire month of April. So we went from having 300,000 passengers to today, we're around 91,600 passengers per day. International passengers usually, around 6,000-7,000 per day. Now we're down to 2,700. So, it's affected us tremendously on the passenger side. But we've seen some interesting things on the cargo side. We have continued to see some growth. We saw some decline of cargo, around 15% decline in volume between Asia and the US. This is very important for the state of Georgia because for Georgia, Asia is one of our most important trading market for both imports and exports. China alone is our second largest trading partner for both imports and exports. Other markets are important as well, such as Canada, Germany, United Kingdom, but we export a lot of agricultural products to China. I've seen a lot of products from Georgia, which I didn't know we produce, on Chinese supermarket shelves. So we saw trade between the US and China fall by around 6%. And what we've seen is a general decrease of commodities between both China and the US. Air cargo yields during the pandemic have stabilized now, and we have big swings between 10 and 20% weekly. But what we've seen is that more and more with the fall of capacity on the belly cargo, Atlanta was on average 50% belly cargo, 50% all freighters, because we lost a significant amount of our belly cargo with the grounding of many airlines due to the pandemic and the lockdowns. We saw at first an increase in the rates. The rates are still high, but they're stabilizing somewhat now, the cargo rates. But we're seeing more and more cargo freighters coming to Atlanta. And even on many occasions, such as from Taipei and from Canada and many other countries, we're seeing passenger planes packed with cargo on the seats. So, some airlines such as United, Air Canada, EVA have taken advantage of the cargo rates and realized that they can make some revenue from the cargo volume that's happening now. So what have we done in regards to some of this this loss? Well, Atlanta's always been an expansionary mode when it comes to cargo. What we recognize is that we've always been super efficient on passenger, but on cargo, we've not been the best. We rank around 42 in the world and about 12 or 13 in the US when it comes to cargo. So we've been working a lot to improve our efficiency when it comes to cargo. We're working on expanding our warehouse capacity. That is warehouses that have airside access. So we recently opened a 100,000 square foot building, and that's now being occupied. The first half of that building should take operations within the next 2 weeks. And the rest of it should probably be operational before the end of the year. We've also put out an RFP, or we're about to put out an RFP on November 4th for what we call a modern air cargo terminal. It was intriguing to see Simon's robotic infrastructure in the warehouse, because we're looking to have that kind of facility in our warehouse, to have one of the best facilities in the US, so that we can make Atlanta a lot more attractive to cargo. Atlanta itself is already quite an attractant to international cargo, because we have a variety of industries that we serve. This region is an aerospace, manufacturing, automotive, biotech, pharmaceutical, a variety of industries, which helps in that because the economy is so diversified, it's really helped us to be resilient to the impact of COVID. So we aim to continue to service these industries by having a modern air cargo facility. We're looking more and more at digitization. Funny enough, we implemented a cargo community system in November last year, the first of its kind in the Americas. And a couple of other airports are now trying to also do the same thing. But we didn't realize the benefit that technology would have during a COVID crisis. So now we're promoting it as a means of not moving around too much documents, not handling paper documents, and therefore keeping staff safe by eliminating a lot of the manual handling processes so that we can protect people against COVID. We need more stakeholders to sign on. We need our freight forwarders, our shippers, our ground handlers to sign on. We have one ground handler and a couple of other truckers and so forth that have signed on, but we need more people in the supply chain to sign on to the cargo community system. As you realize, it's new to Atlanta, it's new to the US, so building awareness is one of our main tasks at the moment. So we're also looking at supply chain optimization. How do we build our, build our relationships with other airports to make sure that we can, what we call, create trade corridors and strategic gateways. So we've built relationship with Schiphol. We're doing the same thing with Shanghai and with other airports. Probably some of the most important markets for us have been Korea, China, and of course, Hong Kong and Japan. Georgia does have export promotion offices in Japan, in China, in Shanghai, and also an investment promotion office in Korea and in Hong Kong. So we see that our relationship as a long-term continuation. And so we continue to have also sister airport programs where we continue to build best practice and look at how we can build collaboration with other airports. So as I mentioned, China will continue to be a global player. It's the one economy that we see growth right now. And we continue to look at China and Asia in general as a long-term collaborator towards our growth and our development. We have a lot of companies here in this region that are invested by Japanese and Chinese companies. So we'll continue to support those companies. We see it as very difficult to decouple or diversify some of these industries. It's very hard to move, say, an Apple company from China and move it to another country. I think it was a Wall Street Journal article which predicted it would be about $1 trillion to move some of these industries. So we will continue to build our relationship with this region. And I look forward to your questions and during the discussion phase. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot. And the last speaker will be Andy Wong, who's the head of innovation and technology of Invest HK. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. So good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Let me come up with my slide first. So okay. So today's the topic is about the AI robotics being used in the logistics industry and how Hong Kong can help this area to grow and what are the opportunities, right? So to start with, so let's just introduce about Invest Hong Kong. So for those who are not familiar, we are the government agency to help company to come to Hong Kong to establish their business. And then we divide it into different vertical sector to address our clients' needs. So I am look after the innovation and technology sectors. We leverage our global 31 location to help our client to bring them to Hong Kong. And then through our platform to connect different ecosystem partners, including government branches, university, technology park, research, and also the public utility like the airport, for example. So because of the COVID-19, so we see the increasing use of robot, particular for the health issue. For example, we see the robot in Hong Kong being used in the shopping mall for disinfection, for the MTR, which is the railway, in the airport, and also in the hotel to deliver the food and also the drinks to the passenger, to the people who live in the hotel, and also as well as in the hospital as well. Not just in the public area, but also in the logistic industry, right? We see the robot being used in the logistic industry, as well as in the transportation and construction area. So no doubt the robots been using widely in worldwide as well as in Hong Kong. So what makes Hong Kong to be a place is good for the robot development? We see a couple of key elements that enabling us to do that. So first of all, we have the R&D facility as LSCM, which Simon is looking after. And then in addition to that, we also have the Science and Technology Park, Productivity Council. This all offering the R&D facility. And the Hong Kong by itself is a good place for doing business, right? We have a low tax rate, very simple tax, and also we have the global IPO market. So the kind of business environment is very unique worldwide. That can happen in Hong Kong. And also we have the talent. So we have 5 universities which rank the top 100 globally. So we can source different talent from Hong Kong to help the company to serve their business, either R&D or sales and marketing or service center or technology center, particular to focus the Asian market. And we do have the funding and policy by the government, like a matching fund, tax reduction, etc. And then we do the product launch, as well as we mentioned about the terms called Greater Bay Area, GBA. And then I have a few slides to talk about it in more detail for the GBA. So go back to the R&D center, which is Science Park, definitely offering a lot of robotic and microelectronics related R&D facility over there. And also have the precision manufacturing center and also advanced manufacturing center to target more advanced manufacturing happening in Hong Kong. So people can do the manufacturing in China, but do the assembling in Hong Kong and then ship it from Hong Kong to overseas. Mention about the funding and policy, right? So this slide is to show different stage, the government offering different kind of scheme. If you are a startup, then you join the Science Park or Cyberport, they have a different called incubation program. And under each program, it depends on the kind of the development. It can be 2 years, 3 years. And then there will be a substantial funding available for the incubatee to apply for it. And then when you move on to the R&D, then there will be different kind of matching fund available. Say like, for example, the enterprise support scheme or partnership research program. Either you join by the enterprise by itself or you join with the university. So that kind of matching fund is available to apply for. And then if you're a company, corporate, and then you spend money on the R&D, there's a tax deduction available to use, right? For example, if you the profit is less than 2 million, then the kind of the tax deduction can be 3 times of the 2 million, which is 6 million. And after that will be 2 times of the profit making. And then the cash rebate on the R&D expenditure. And then another one is the research talent hub, which means that it's subsidized of the salary that for those doctor degree or master degree kind of research people you employ. And then later on we have the adoption as well. So couple of terms, a couple of people already mentioned about the GBA, Greater Bay Area. Definitely this is the one is a driving force, the growth engine for Hong Kong. I think the GBA, as people may know, is including 9 plus 2 city, 9 city from the Guangdong area, city plus 2, 2 means Hong Kong and Macau, right? So add together, increase the population to about 72 million. Hong Kong is about 7 million, right? The GDP add up together, combined together is 1.7 trillion, which is represent 11% of China total. So you can see that this is a very huge, the economic powerhouse in overall in China. And then the overall objective of the GBA is to stimulate the synergy between different cities. For example, Hong Kong has a limited land, but we have a very strong of international experience. And how can we leverage our international experience together with the land supplied in different cities in the Greater Bay Area? So that's the whole concept. And then how can we enable the efficient flow of talent, goods, and information? So overall, we can build an innovation city, do the world-class manufacturing powerhouse, and then increase our international competitiveness. And also, we want to create a quality of living environment overall in the GBA. So if you are doing the robotic in Hong Kong or in China, you can see that you can do a very fast prototype quickly in the GBA area, which is shortening your time to do the prototypes and also reduce the cost to produce the prototype. And if you want to scale, you can make use of the factory and the workers in the Guangdong area to scale up your manufacturing and then ship it over globally. So underneath there's a comparison. It's a GBA, which is talking about much bigger than the Greater Bay, the other Bay Area in the world. I think this slide is mentioning what Simon said is because of the technology enablement. So you can look at the bottom, look at the using the cloud computing, big data, 5G, IoT, blockchain. How can we change the whole the logistic or ecosystem? I think more and more right now for the supply chain, what we talk about is the customization, agile, innovation, just in time. So this is all we need. And then by leveraging the GBA, division of labor, what I just mentioned, because of the different city have their own uniqueness, right? So make use of the division of labor. So from the product design to manufacturing to warehouse to wholesale, retail, so we can divide the different kind of work. And then using the cloud computing, you can upload the data, using the analytic over the AI and then the 5G IoT to make sure that every pieces of manufacturing part can be monitored, and then the blockchain to ensure the security as well. So at the end, Hong Kong can be used as a bridge for linking China to global as well as from global to China by using the government special policy, the incentive enabled for the GBA city and also the tenant and the facility available in Hong Kong, the access to capital as well as the business environment. So at the end, Invest Hong Kong is providing a full range of service for any foreign company come to Hong Kong. We provide an end-to-end customer journey from the planning stage, providing the information set up your business to launch, and then we do the PR promotion and also the business networking available for any foreign company want to come to Hong Kong to invest. Okay, you finished my part. I pass it over back to Robert.
Okay, thank you, Andy, and thank you all the panelists who did an excellent job giving us more time for Q&A. And so there are two questions here, and I'll start with these. The first one is probably more to you, Sissy, and it's regarding the Philadelphia International Airport, and in particular, cold chain connectivity between Hong Kong and Philadelphia. So not to put you on the spot, I don't know if you can have some comments on that.
So thank you, Robert. In fact, we are working very hard to create a network of airports so that we can fully capture the demand for pharmaceuticals. So as I've just mentioned, we have already launched the first airport-to-airport pharma corridor between Hong Kong and Brussels. And we are looking at launching more pharma corridors with other airports as well. So definitely, we are very interested to work with other airports so that we can together answer the need for pharmaceuticals. And in fact, right now, we are expecting quite some vaccine shipments in the near future. And I think for those, all the more, the world has to work together to fulfill the demand for such an important air freight.
I don't know if any of the other panelists want to follow up on that, because I think, you know, any of the panelists could talk about maybe the cold chain, this connectivity, and then it gets very close to the next question, which I'll just kind of get to, which has to do with the vaccine. So very similar, cold chain. The question is how is Hong Kong Airport preparing to handle the required temperature control facility around the vaccine? So it seems like everyone has cold chain on their mind, probably because of COVID. So I could just kind of open it up to any of the panelists who want to take on either cold chain. Elliot, this is good for Atlanta too, is potentially a hub. And so if someone wants to raise their hand, they can go first.
Maybe I'll give it a try as a start.
Okay, Elliot, you go.
So, you know, Atlanta Airport is home also to Atlanta is home to the CDC. And so we recognize that this airport is going to play a very important role in whatever vaccines come to play. So we are in discussions with a variety of stakeholders, with the couriers, with Customs and Border Protection, TSA, a simple thing as with our badging office or our security office to make sure that we can get the appropriate number of staff in a quick emergency to get all of that ready. So we're in the process of setting all of those mechanisms up. There are some that are a little ahead of us, like the couriers like UPS, FedEx, DHL. They've recognized that they might be the first lines of moving vaccines. So they're probably closer to being prepared than most of us are, but the rest of I'm trying to get all of the community ready for that kind of distribution. so so we're getting ourselves ready, and we recognize that it's something that's on everybody's mind.
Okay, thank you, Elliot. So Simon, you raised your hand. I know you talked about cold chain. Do you want to talk a little more about cold chain and collaboration?
Well, if I may add, actually, Hong Kong is one of the best prepared cold chain hub right now, as I know it, because in terms of cold chain, a lot have to do with the standards. If you look back to Ceci's presentation, actually our cargo terminal, we have cargo terminals operators there. They are already fully certified for cold chain operations. And of course, the airport itself, it's also ready. And cold chain has actually two tier. One, of course, is a long-term cold chain business, which include a lot of high-end food business and of course pharmaceuticals. But because of this vaccine situation, everybody is trying to rush to better prepare for it. Hong Kong is a very interesting location now. We will be receiving vaccines once they are available from the Western side, from Europe as well as from US. As I understand, our government has booked them. But also there are opportunities that in this part of our world, China will be another major supplier of vaccines for other countries, say like in ASEAN region or in the what we call the Belt and Road region. So we are busy looking at what more we need to do, because depending on the types of vaccine, they have different requirements on the temperature, as well as how they are shipped. Not only that, the challenge from a logistics standpoint, if we send from United States to Hong Kong to another countries like Korea, I think the environment is well handled. But if you ship from one country to another country, which is not as good in terms of infrastructure, the shipping of vaccine will be a huge, huge challenge, because we are talking about end-to-end delivery. We are not talking about just shipping to the airport. So these are the kind of things that we are interested in. And these are the kind of things we think if we are ready, once the vaccines are ready, Hong Kong, at least in this part of the world, is one of the major hubs for shipping of this kind of medical product. Ceci, you may want to add more.
Yeah. Robert, may I supplement a little bit here?
Sure, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So thank you to Simon for elaborating on the competency and preparedness of the Hong Kong airport community. So at the moment, we are in the process of setting up a task force, because for the vaccine transportation, it's not just about the airport, but the airport stakeholders like the cargo terminal, ramp handlers as well. And also very importantly is to do with the shippers. So that is the pharmaceuticals manufacturers as well as distributors. And the forwarders will also have to come into play in order to ensure that the entire transportation process is being protected against temperature excursion. And the other important party to be consulted will also be Department of Health, because they are the one who will be regulating all these. And so at the moment, we are working on understanding more about the different temperature requirements of the various vaccines being developed. And we are working with an international organization, Pharma Aero, where the members are all the accredited IATA-C Pharma accredited parties. And we are a strategic member there. So we are also working with them on an international basis in order to exchange more information and to get the very updated path on how what we should do in order to prepare for the vaccine transportation. So thank you, Robert.
Okay, yeah, thank you, everyone. I'll give Andy a question, and it's regarding how can Invest Hong Kong assist foreign companies to set up in Hong Kong, and how is Hong Kong positioning itself through the tensions we're having between the United States and China? I don't want to get down a rabbit hole here, but maybe you could talk a little about how Hong Kong can be the gateway.
Right. Thank you, Robert. So I think as the panelists talked about earlier, right? So one thing is called decoupling, right? So because of the tension between China and Hong Kong, so there could be end up to two different set of product. So given that the China is the first in, first out, which is the one who come out from the COVID-19, and then given the double circulation mentioned earlier, so there's a huge demand of the China domestic consumption. So Hong Kong can play a role bringing the foreign company through Hong Kong to China, and in particular leveraging the Hong Kong, I think is a more business environment. One of the example that we're helping a client, so we set up the sales and marketing hub in Hong Kong, and then leveraging the talent in Hong Kong, because the people who graduate from the university are very good on doing the international facing kind of view, so that those people can work 24 around the clock. So for penetrating different market worldwide. So that's why they use Hong Kong as a hub and found it very successful to leveraging the engineering plus business talent of those people in Hong Kong to expand their service going overseas. So that's the one thing, is one way from the Chinese company leveraging Hong Kong to go global. But I think it's the other way around, is for the foreign company leveraging Hong Kong to move to China because of the Hong Kong, the rule of law, and then the low tax rate, and then the language we speak, and also the dim sum we offer, the food we offer. Okay,
No,
thank you.
Oh, no, thank you so much. And you brought in this last point, which I had heard for the first time, and the question comes out. And Simon, this is for you, and you just brought it up, Andy. So you might have to chime in on this double circulation, which the note I have, Simon, is it's balancing internal versus external. So it's balancing domestic China with the export policy. I don't know, can you elaborate? And we have a couple more minutes of Q&A. Does anyone want to take that on, Simon? Maybe?
Well, I'm not an expert on this, but basically what the country is doing now is that they understand, other than just export business, when it is still in a status of an emerging country, they now need to focus on grooming the domestic market themselves. With a strong domestic market, then they can ensure continuous and dependable economic growth. And that calls for import of a lot of material, a lot of foreign products that will help them to achieve the domestic economic growth. So that is what they call a double circulation. Now, I just want to add, if I may, one more point, why I'm still optimistic between the trade between US and China, as well as why we need to pick Hong Kong. Apple is still doing fine in China. Tesla is doing fine in China. And so are many American companies. And there are many Chinese companies which are still interested in investing in US. I think in many areas, other than the more sensitive area, like very high-tech segment, there are tremendous opportunities. So I'm one of those people who think there's still a lot of room to grow between the two greatest countries on earth. And Hong Kong, why you need to choose that, I just give you a very latest example. Our Secretary for Justice is advocating on her blog that hopefully one day company registered in Hong Kong can do business in the Greater Bay Area with arbitration under the Hong Kong laws. That is between two companies that are in China but originated from outside of China, like Hong Kong. Any disputes can be settled under Hong Kong laws, which is common law basis, through arbitration. This is actually a huge impact. And that is one of the many reasons why choosing Hong Kong is a very sensible choice.
Well, perfect. Thank you, Simon. And I am going to stop it there because we are right at that number, which I can now turn it over to Don for the near the close. Thank you, panelists.
Right. Let's see. I'm trying to. Someone's got my video, a hold of my video. So someone wants to release my video. I think that'll be helpful. But can you hear me? Oh, start my video. There we go.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Yep. Okay. Very good. Thank you. So thanks for all those excellent presentations and discussions. I mean, clearly there's a lot happening and a lot of challenges, but also in Hong Kong and as well as in Atlanta and elsewhere. Of course, the Greater Bay Area and the BRI offer big opportunities for investment in business, and that's only going to grow. And I personally, I think the issue of the virus, the vaccine is really super amazing, because at the moment we don't know who's going to win that race to make the virus. We don't know which way it's going to go, who's going to get it, and how it's going to move. And I've even seen that some of the vaccines may require minus 80 degrees Celsius, which is minus 112 degrees Fahrenheit, for to hold them until they're used and distributed. And that's not just at big hubs. That's got to be down to every small town hospital. And then that's going to happen basically as soon as they're available, and it's going to launch. It'll be like a surprise military movement that requires a global response. It's going to be really challenging and interesting. But before we go on to Anna, I just want to make sure everybody else is frozen. That's intentional, I suppose, right? Am I still live? Yes. Okay. Here's something great. Before I go on to Anna, I just want to say thanks to Robert. For those who don't know, Robert's the president of Global Mesh, which is a global supply chain and solutions and third-party logistics provider in Alpharetta, Georgia. And you can find information about him at globalmesh.link. And of course, Candy's team, it does a great job out of New York in the Eastern US, and you can find out more about them at hketony.gov.hk. So now we're going to move on to Anna Fan, and then after that will be Henry. And Anna is the director of Hong Kong Trade and Development Council. They, in a normal world, they put on fairs and conferences in Hong Kong to support Hong Kong businesses and connect them with foreign partners. Now many of those are online, as she will describe, and you can find information about what she and they do at hktdc.com. Anna?
Thank you, Don. You hear me, right?
Yes, I do. Thanks.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Don. And I certainly learned a lot from our panelists today, and especially for the vaccine part. It's really good to know like everybody like gearing up to make sure the vaccine are safe, and even during the delivery process, I learned a lot from the presentation and discussion as well. And for HKTDC, the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, it is also our role to continue to provide a platform, be it physical or virtual, for industry players around the world to continue the discussion, networking, and sharing market intelligence. So going forward, I would like to introduce two events which are highly relevant to the logistic sector. So the first one would be, the Asian Logistic, Maritime and Aviation Conference, which is going to its 10th anniversary this year. It will be on 17th and 18th of November, going online. So anybody from around the world can join the event. So whether you are suppliers or logistic provider or technology companies, if you are interested in knowing more about methods of innovation from automation, supply chain, e-commerce or retailing, robotics, you are all welcome to join the conference. So it will be a 2-day conference. Of course, there are time difference between Hong Kong and US, but don't worry about it. Once you register the event, you can log in and listen to the conference anytime for 1 month. And I can assure you that this is not just another Zoom webinar. So other than the conference session, you can, we also have AI supported business matching and other concurrent events. So you can network with companies from different parts of the world. Because of the conference is going virtual, the TDC network of 50 offices worldwide are partnering with even more organizations and partners from around the world to bring their members in to join the logistic conference. So it would be a very good opportunity for anyone if you want to find new partners, new suppliers, or new logistic vendors through the event. So for a preview of speakers, we have Deputy Director General from World Trade Organization and also International Maritime Organization. And not just the public sector, we have, Stacey has mentioned about Cainiao, which is the logistic arm of Alibaba, which is setting up a housing hub in Hong Kong to be ready in 2023. And China will be one of our speakers. Of course, Airport Authority of Hong Kong, IATA, and also traditional retailer like P&G, and e-commerce leader like Shopee, and also like shipping liners, Mars are all our speakers. So it will be a 2-day forum. So as the webinar participant today, you will be able to join this logistic conference as a special offer, and we'll be sending information to you after the webinar today. So another event, so if you or any of your business contacts are in the B2B sourcing or supplying, so this is an event that you should pay attention to. Is the Autumn Sourcing Week online, to be held between 16 to 27 of November. So this is the second online sourcing event that HKTVC is hosting. And this time we'll be focusing on a few number of sectors, which you can see on the screen: electronics, houseware, lighting, environmental products, gifts, toys, baby, stationery, optical products, and watching clock. So we'll be providing business matching service online to assist you to meet suppliers from Asia or any parts of the world. So right now we are consolidating our buyers as we need to arrange pre-screens matching for them. So if any of your contacts are interested, do contact us after the webinar today. So that's all I'll be sharing, and I will pass the mic back to Dawn. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much for that. And before I introduce Henry, I want to thank everybody also for their participation, and also the attendees, which even though we're running late, I see most of them are still there. So next, and to do closing remarks and give some comments, is Henry Yu. Henry is the chairman of the Hong Kong Association of Atlanta. So one of my counterparts, I guess. He's a banker with more than 35 years of experience, I believe, and he's currently the chairman of the Hong Kong Association of Atlanta, like I said. So Henry, please take it forward.
Thank you, Don. Certainly, this is a very great webinar, and really special thanks to all the speakers and moderators. And certainly, this event would not have occurred without the strong support of our organizers, the Hong Kong ETO, Hong Kong TDC, Invest Hong Kong, and Hong Kong Association of New York, as well as Hong Kong Association of Atlanta. Just maybe a small commercial. Hong Kong Association of Atlanta, as well as New York, is we are part of the 12th chapter National U.S. Hong Kong Business Association, which is under the umbrella of the Federation of Hong Kong Business Worldwide. So our role is really to help companies and navigate business globally, and in particular with Hong Kong and the rest of the world. So certainly, I'm sure that the audience will make the best efforts to really tap into this opportunity today. After all, I really believe we have a life crisis. The COVID pandemic, the U.S.-China confrontation on various fronts. I think this creates opportunity. I think through this webinar, and I encourage our audience to really take a good look at Hong Kong, and in particular through the discussion today, between the airport cooperation, whether it's Atlanta, Hong Kong, or Philadelphia, you name it. We do see many common similarities between Hong Kong, Asia, and key cities in USA in terms of industry. Hong Kong is very keen on fintech, healthcare, logistics, smart city, technology, and innovation. And these 5 really sectors and segment of business are also very important to Atlanta, Georgia, as well as to other cities like fintech in New York and fintech in San Francisco. So I do encourage that really our audience tap into our expertise, tap into our resources to help you navigate business in Hong Kong and Asia and the rest of the world. So with that, I really want to do a few commercial, and please make an effort to attend the 2 important conferences that Anna just mentioned. And I believe the Hong Kong Association of New York and also the other 11 chapters, including Atlanta, have many programs available to really to showcase Hong Kong, as well as to tell the whole world how we can help. So with that, I think stop raining in Atlanta, and have a good day.
Okay. Anyways, so thank you very much for that, Henry. That's the end of our webinar and our discussions, and we look forward to people joining and participating in our future events, which I'm sure you'll be well aware of when we distribute the information for that. So thank you very much again to everybody. Thank you again, Henry, and everybody a good day and a good evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.